வாழிய செந்தமிழ், வாழ்க நற்றமிழர், வாழிய பாரத மணி திருநாடு. நான் தமிழ்ல ஆரம்பிக்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு காரணம் இருக்கு. இந்த டாக்கோட கடைசி பகுதியில தமிழ் ரெஃபரன்சஸ் வரப்போகுது. ரெண்டாவது, நீங்க இப்பதான் சாப்பிட்டுட்டு வந்திருக்கீங்க. உண்ட மயக்கம் தொண்டருக்கும் உண்டு. நீங்க தூங்குறதுக்கு ஆரம்பிக்கலாம், இல்ல தூங்கலாம்னு யோசிக்கலாம். Please don't do that. Okay, this is going to be a very interesting session, and you are going to get a lot of interesting information. Okay, so please don't sleep. This has started a 1 hour late. I'm a German citizen, and we always maintain time. There is a wording in German saying that order is everything. ஒழுக்கம் விழுப்பம் தரலாம், ஒழுக்கம் உயிரினும் ஓம்பப்படும். சொன்னது யாரு? நம்மாள் வள்ளுவர். Good. So I thank Kamalakannan for introducing me. We were together at Madurai Kamaraj University. I thank Dr. Balakrishnan, who has invited me to talk to you guys today. And I gladly accepted it because I am an alma mater of American College. And I also visited American College through Bodhi Internationals on a couple of talks on eco-criticism in English literature. Then I gave a talk at Madurai American College Zoology Department. And I thank the principals of both Bishop Weaver and American College. And Dr. Priscilla Ramesh was talking to me yesterday, so thanks to Dr. KK. And one of the important things I gathered from that conversation was that we need to encourage the zoology students, whether it is UG or PG or MPhil or PhD students. Because normally what happens is in a college atmosphere, when you have nowhere to go, you take either zoology or go to Tamil. These are the two subjects students normally end up with when there is no other hope. But the situation is not all that bad, actually. A zoologist can be a global citizen like me. A zoologist could be a good entrepreneur like Mr. Sudhakaran, who spoke this morning. And so don't leave hope. There is actually hope. I'm going to show you through my talk how these things can be achieved. And so I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation to you. Here it is. 1 second. Okay, so this is a bit slow. So pardon me if there's a delay. 1 second, I need to. Good. Okay, so my talk today is going to be cultural environmentalism. I'll define what is cultural environmentalism at the end of my talk. But the essential thing is why this is proposed is this will give us some solutions to the climate crisis.
Presentation, online presentations.
Okay, right. So, as Dr. Priscilla asked me to give you some background about me, I am trying to tell you that I had a very simple beginning. My grandpa he was a local chief, and my father was a district head. My mother never went to school. And in the third generation, so with my grandfather here, I became a global citizen. And my father never even visited Chennai. He has never gone out of his district. I presume my grandpa also never gone anywhere else. Whereas I visited all the 5 continents and the Oceania. And I consider myself as a global trotter, a global citizen. And one step further, my daughter, who is an airport hopper, that means she hops around. She has visited so many countries, and which I have never had a chance to visit. She is working for United Nations. So within 3 generations, a tremendous development happened in India. This is the history of India too. So a tremendous development happened, and that is possible because of India paid through education, made education free for all of us, and give us a lot of fellowships and scholarships and to promote education there. That made India so progressive today. And that's the story of me too. And this is the house where actually me with my 5 sisters, my parents and my cousins and my uncles, we all lived in Tiruppuvanam. And this is where we played around. This is River Vaigai. And this bridge was under construction that time when I was a young fellow. And the River Vaigai in Tiruppuvanam is quite broad. And so we could walk across during summertime and go to the manga topu there and to steal manga there. And this is the only temple over there. And this is very, very Padal Petrastalam. So this is a very important Shiva Stalam. And I grew up until I finished my high school from a government secondary school. And I studied everything in Tamil till I finished my high school. It was all, my primary language was Tamil. All my communication was only through my mother tongue and nothing else. Actually, English was introduced then, and there was nobody, there were no takers. But nevertheless, they encouraged us to study English by giving us some laddu and some mixture and this and that, so that we'll be attracted to learn English. But then, when I entered the well-known American College in Madurai, okay, I still remember I was standing here at this place, you know, with the half trouser, you know, getting an application for the entry. I was the only guy who was talking in Tamil. The rest of them were all from convent students talking in English. I had a great inferiority complex. But that's how the whole thing began in Madurai, especially in American College. But nevertheless, American College has really inspired me when Dr. Tangaraj spoke about the emblem of American College, purificatus non consumptus. That's a Latin word. That really impressed me. It says that be like a gold. When you burn the gold, okay, the impurities leave, but it's not burnt. Purificatus non consumptus. The fire doesn't consume the gold. Okay, so the excellent message for college students to get inspired. And I studied from there. From that time, we had pre-university, then my undergraduate, and then my postgraduate. And this is my postgraduate, you know, when I finished, and JCB Abraham was the head of the department at that time. And Dr. Dwarakanath, who was the one who introduced research into us. He just got his PhD from Madurai Kamaraj University. And you know, now I was telling Dr. Priestley that in zoology, nobody studied taxonomy and nobody studies anatomy, right? So you all gone into molecular biology straight away, okay? But that's the time actually, it was called cell biology. And we have been introduced to cell biology, and only 10 years before was actually Watson and Crick. I invented DNA, discovered DNA, and the whole world has changed after this. But American College is extremely important for me because that's where I picked up my sense of environmental studies. Only in 60s, actually, the issues on environmental things become very obvious, and ecology, the study of the environment, has become a branch of its own. And then after my American college, I entered into Madurai Kamaraj University. The important point here is that when I was in American college, I wanted to become a medical doctor, okay? But I was not given a seat in Madurai Medical College, and you have the quota system, you see. And so I joined zoology, hoping that in the first year, zoology, I will get a medical, first year, second year. Then I finished my undergraduate. But then I decided that I must have a doctor in front of my name. That was the driver, okay? So you need to have some dream, you know, to follow, or something to drive you. So as Abdul Kalam says, கனவு என்பது தூங்குவதன் போது வருவதல்ல கனவு, உங்களை தூங்க விடாமல் பிரட்டி போடுவதுதான் கனவு. So there was a drive on me or in me which drove me further to Madurai Kamaraj University to do my PhD. And there was a large group of people. You have people from Germany, and then who turn from USA, like Dr. J.J. Raman and Kuntala Raman, and then you have people from other countries, and you have excellent microbiologists, and then TJP was he did his PhD at the place where I entered as an employee in the University of Kiel in Germany. And R.J. Raman was there. And so this was a very interesting team of people who just returned from USA. And so they actually seeded a lot of dreams to us, okay? And a lot of ideas, and in a very, very informal, you know, this was an oasis in Madurai, where, you know, it's cluttered with all these conservative ideas and things. But here we had an opportunity to be liberated and to be open and learn a lot of new things. I hope you hear me, right? Okay, so I need to check it with you now and then. Okay, good. So from there, I got my PhD in Madurai, where I was working mostly on pesticides. Now, there was a transition, you know, like Dr. Divagar was also telling this morning, that you need to find a new field where you can expand yourselves, you know. Don't stuck with what you studied in your undergraduate. And I had an opportunity to get into environmental sciences. As I told you, I was working on pesticides and the dissipation of pesticides in tropical, tropical food and vegetables. And so that gave me an opportunity to go to Japan, where there was an excellent team. Here is Dr. Tanabe, and Dr. Ryo Tatsukawa is here, and Dr. Zen is here. So I had an opportunity to actually expand my horizon further into industrial contaminants, like polychlorinated biphenyls, dioxins, dibenzofurans. And that really put me in the world highlight, because the chemicals I worked was very new, and some of my discoveries were very important. And then I was right on the global platform. And so that actually gave me a chance to move next. But there is something behind this, like you don't get success just like that, you know, you need to work for it. And Professor Dr. Tanabe, his slogan is don't sleep, work hard. We never slept in Japan, and we worked hard. And in a matter of 3 years, I published something like 27 papers, which was a record even now. And that actually gave me a job in Germany, called a very famous institute here in Germany called Biomar. That was under University of Kiel, Christian Albrecht's University of Kiel. And I worked there in 1989 to 2003, and then I became a naturalized citizen of Germany, because I was a civil servant there as a professor. And so it was easy for me to get my citizenship in Germany. And then the work I did in Japan as well as in Germany drew me to Korea, because people were watching me, and the well-known Korean Institute of Ocean Science and Technology has invited me to be the chief scientific advisor to the president. And I was there in several committees, and I was heading a special center for East Asian. This is AMETEC, okay, Asia Pacific Environmental Cooperation Center for Marine Education and Technical Education in Korea. And that actually brought me to University of Putra, Malaysia, in Malaysia, where I worked for some years as a professor at several universities there. And then ultimately, Corona brought me to India, and I'm here in India for the past two and a half years, okay? And now I actually entertain my friends by giving such talks. But the most important thing, or whatever you call it, as an achievement of a person who comes from such a very simple background, is your rating as a scientist, as an international scientist. How do people actually rate a scientist? You know, there is actually a way by which they can calculate the caliber of a scientist through your publications and how many people cite your publications, okay? That's called citation index, okay? It's a very complicated calculations, but then they calculate and give a H index, okay? My current H index is 38. What is the significance of this number 38? If you look at it, the world, the top 25% of the global professors, they had a H index of 30 or greater. Okay, so my 38 means I am within the bracket of the top 25% professors in the world. And you look at this, the other fields like computer science, an average is only 21, and psychology 19, okay, nursing is 18, and then biomedicine is 25, and I have 38. Okay, so that puts me actually in a very interesting position. Like if you take into environment and ecology, you see the H index over the years from 1995 to 2005, and average is only 7.81. Okay, and Jörg Kirch, who actually proposed this H index, says after 20 years of research, okay, if you have an index of 20, that's good. Okay, if you have 40, that's outstanding. And you have 60, that is truly exceptional. So I'm going to reach 40 very soon, which is outstanding. And so I am being considered as highly cited scientist. Not only that, you have the histograms of Nobel Prize or Nobel laureates, you know, who have an average after 25 years, they have an average of 35 to 39. So that means coming from Triphuvanam, okay, I achieved through science that I am in par with any Nobel laureate in the world in my research. This is a very, very important information for you, so that you should never give hope. You can rise up to this level, to a Nobel laureate level, if you're very sincere and if you follow your dream. So, good. And also, when I was at Madurai Kamaraj University and even at American College, I always wanted to go to America and settle there. But I had a different path. You know, life had a different path for me. So I went to Japan and Germany, Korea, and Malaysia. But nevertheless, I always visited America. I visited several of the states in America through scientific visits. And then as a scientist, as a globe-trotter, I have visited all the 5 continents and even the Oceania. And so I call myself as a global trotter, okay, or Ulaga Kurimaran. You can achieve this too. So if you are very sincere, if you have a dream, if you are passionate about what you study, okay, sky is your limit, right? That's the first message, okay. Then we enter into the second and third messages. An astronaut, okay, looking down on Earth from space, have long said, the view is tremendous, beautiful, fantastic. okay? But it also reveals something. This little planet called the planet Earth is the only one world that the entire humanity, you, me, and all of us can call as home, okay? So our planet in our spaceship, it's a spaceship actually, our planet is our spaceship, said the NASA astronaut Sandra Magnus, who returned to Earth after spending about 4.5 months in space. She said it looks very fragile from here, and it is very easy to take it for granted when we were living on it, when it seems so big and so massive, but it is not. It is very small, believe it. She says Earth is very small and very fragile, okay? Life is very fragile, we see that, okay? And we take it for granted, everything is given. Planet Earth has given you free air, free water, a place to live, okay? So we take it for granted that everything is, given you free. No, there is a price for it. And why did she say that planet Earth is small? Look at this. Here is planet Earth, which is so big for us. But if you look into our planetary systems, you look at the sun is so big, and here we are, Earth is so tiny. And this entire solar system, if you go into the Milky Way galaxy, then it is a small, tiny ring there. And the whole Milky Way galaxy, which we have the solar system, looks in a very small spot in an interstellar neighbor. And the whole Milky Way galaxy is in Oort cloud, and it becomes again a small spot. And then if you go further and further in the universe, this whole galaxies and everything become a small spot. And that's what she said, that we are really very small. And look at even within our solar systems, here is our planet, and you see, compared to Sun, we are very tiny. Even compared to Jupiter and Saturn, we are very tiny. And Pluto is the farthest of the solar system. And from Pluto, if you want to see where planet Earth is, look at that. This is such a tiny speck, even within solar system. If you look at planet Earth from Pluto, it is totally insignificant. So no wonder when the astronaut said that we are small, fragile. Okay, why are we fragile? I'm going to show you. So the planet Earth is something like a spaceship. See, I actually take you from a voyage from the interstellar cloud. This is so very important because you will understand the significance of our life and our life on planet Earth only when you understand from outside planet Earth, to see from an eagle's perspective, only when you see that. If you look at it, planet Earth is nothing but a spaceship. Okay, it's called as a spaceship. And unfortunately, the Earth is like a spaceship. That's fine. Okay, you can compare. But every spaceship has a manual, right? If something goes wrong, there's a manual to repair. But planet Earth has no manual. That's what Buckminster Fuller, a well-known American philosopher, scientist, poet, and an engineer, said. So this is what planet Earth looks like from a satellite. And then based on this one, he started constructing the so-called geodesic domes. And then he started writing books on the planetary living and an operating manual for spaceship Earth. Okay, so this is very important. So you need to consider this as a spaceship, the planet Earth. Okay. So Earth is also a closed system. We think that it's open indefinitely, we get resources coming down. No, it's not. The planet Earth is very much an enclosed system that I proved even through my research. Okay, so through my 40 years of research on chemical pollutants, especially the persistent organic pollutants, I've shown that what you spray at the backyard, okay, goes all the way down on this open ocean. Okay, so from Japan, I got samples all the way from the Pacific Oceans, and I showed that how the industrial chemicals produced on land can reach so far. So because planet Earth is an enclosed system, nothing goes away, okay, through different kinds of distillations, which we call the global distillation. So from one stratosphere to another, from one attitude to another, from one latitude to another, the pollutants keep moving around, okay? So you need to be extremely careful with pollutants, because what do you think throwing away from your home will come back to you in a different way, because we are living in an enclosed system. They say in Tamil, Tanvinai Thannai Chudum. So that's what exactly this means. And there is another very interesting theory called Gaia, proposed by one of my favorite scientists, James Lovelock. And he says the Earth is more than just a home. It's a living system. The whole planet Earth is a living system. And we are part of it. You know, you don't study this in zoology, right? You study about all the animals and all the different phyla and all the species, but you never really, nobody taught you that Earth is an organism. Earth is a living system. You don't call it as an organism, but it is a living system, and we are part of it. Okay, why do we say that Earth is a living system? There are three things that can define Earth is a living system. First, surface temperature. So you get sunlight all the time, getting into the planet Earth, but still planet Earth regulates its temperature so that it is livable. And that is maintained, this thermostat is maintained by living organisms, okay? Then atmospheric composition. This is where actually James Lovelock's contribution is. The atmospheric composition of planet Earth is very unusual. If you study the atmospheric composition of other planets in anywhere in the universe, okay, they would follow the gas law, and they will follow the other laws of physics, and they will dissipate away. But in planet Earth, we have high oxygen, which is very unusual. In other planets, you don't see, even in Moon, you don't have enough oxygen. You can't live without this entire, the astronauts, that big mask, like otherwise you can't survive there, okay? Whereas in planet Earth, okay, we have high oxygen, high nitrogen, and the whole gas composition is very different, okay? And the third point is the ocean salinity. The land brings in all kinds of salt into the ocean, but still the ocean maintains a correct order of salinity, never goes up or down, okay? These are all maintained by living organisms on planet Earth so that they can live further and forever, eternally, okay? This beautiful blue jewel called the planet Earth has been totally mishandled, okay? And one of the well-known scientists called Stephen Hawking, who is considered as very similar to Einstein in his caliber. And Stephen Hawking says, in a world that is in total chaos, politically, socially, and environmentally, how can the human race sustain another 100 years? Originally, when they interviewed, he said, we could probably survive for next 1,000 years. But then now, later, he kind of rewind his assessment, and he says, if human species can survive for next 100 years, that's a miracle, okay? And there are not only Stephen Hawking, there are about 15,000 scientists all around the world, okay, looking at the global situation, has signed and warned drastically that the end of the world is not so far behind, it's only about 100 years from now. And what are the major things which is causing to come to this conclusion? Population, the population. And India, when Bharati was he was writing Muppadu Kodi Janangal, he says now we are 100 crores of people in India, population burst, okay? And the catastrophic climate change, it's no more a climate change, it's called a climate crisis, And then we have enormous deforestation going on in the planet Earth, and there's mass species extinction, and then there are so many dead zones, I will explain that soon, and the fresh water is at stake, and then we are jeopardizing our own future, okay? And the dead zone is a zone, a hypotoxic or hypoxic zone with low oxygen, which is created by, as we say, eutrophication, and because of the nutrients coming out of the land, okay, and nothing lives in these dead zones, okay, and this dead zone is increasing by 70%, already, and 26% of all the places in the world have, in the world you have these dead zones, and in 25 years, the amount of fresh water available per person will be reduced to 26%. We have big search for fresh water. When I was young, we never had bottled water. Now you have bottled water, and now you are going to be fighting for your fresh water with Karnataka and other states, and there's going to be a water war very soon. And then, if you consider the deforestation, about 300 million acres of forest have been lost, and on the other hand, the human population has jumped by 35% high, okay? Whereas the biodiversity has dramatically reduced, okay? The number of animals have dropped by 29%. What does it show? Humanity is now being given a second notice that be aware of these changes and do something about this. If you don't do, your end is not far away. Actually, one of the predicament or one of the prediction is the world will end in next 12 years, ultimatum on climate change. If we don't actually control the carbon emissions coming out of, if we don't do anything, and if it remains status quo like this, we have only 12 years to live. So what are the top 10 issues of global concern? Climate change? No, climate crisis. And then the energy. Of course, you know about the energy, and all the fossil fuels are not renewable. They have a limitation. We are going to exhaust that very soon, okay? And water is a very precious commodity. Don't waste water. And the biodiversity is extremely important. As I told you, the global thermostat is maintained by biodiversity. The more you reduce the biodiversity by killing and making the species extinct, then your end is not far away. And the land use, you take others' land, for other animals, okay? And also our own lands, you take all the lakes and make it into plots, and how you misuse the land. And chemicals. So my research was purely on industrial chemicals, agrochemicals, and other toxic chemicals which are introduced into planet Earth. Okay, I studied something on air pollution too. And in Malaysia, I was concerned about waste management. Okay. And then oceans and fisheries. Yeah, certainly. When I was in Ocean Institute in Germany and in Korea, I was focusing on oceans and then deforestation. And India is not an exception to this catastrophic impact. Okay. And there is one estimation which says that in 2100, which is only about 78 years from now, our GDP will be reduced to 90% if the world reaches 3 degrees Celsius of warming. Okay, so another 2 degrees high up, then our GDP is out, and then we will be stopped. And there are certain predictions that Chennai and a whole lot of Tamil Nadu will be undersea because of sea rise, and we will be moving up north further. Okay, and many countries are already doing that. And so India is already feeling the cost of climate change, okay? And we lost something like $3 billion worth through floods and other things happened in India, okay? So if you look at it from a global trend, you see all the greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane, water vapor, they're all on the increase. So this is some studies from 18th century until the very recent, and you see everything is on the increase, okay? And the surface temperature is constantly increased, okay? And the ocean acidification has also increased, leading to all kinds of environmental problems, Okay. And through a study of about 16,704 populations representing about 4,005 species on planet Earth, they realized within the last 50 years, nearly 60% of the biodiversity has been reduced. This is a drastic reach. And the rainforests have been reduced to 20%. I still remember a study in Korea by a US EPA scientist that he was seeing plastics on seagulls and other seabirds. But now 90% of all the world seabird has plastics in their guts, okay? And just in 20th century, okay, the freshwater fish has seen the highest extinction rate. So, and my research has also shown that all the pesticides and other things, what you throw out on your neighborhood will ultimately reach you back through what a process called biomagnification. So the biomagnification will ultimately give you all these toxins in a magnified way back to you, okay? So now the plastics, you throw plastics out, okay? In 2020, the estimation is that you will have more plastics on the sea than the fish. And these plastics are all degraded into fine particles, and the microplastics are already in human body, okay? These are all alien materials, you know, plastic, petrochemical, okay? These are not natural material, okay? They're definitely going to cause cancer and a lot of other illness to you. And ultimately what you throw out comes back to you, okay? So you need to be very, very careful. And in the next some years, you will have 52% of the climate emissions will be from agriculture. And in the agriculture, 70% of it comes from livestock, okay? And if you look at the humans slaughter 10 times more cows, pigs, and chickens. So only 7.4 billion people consume 74 billion animals. Then imagine how much of greenhouse gases these animals will emit and how much catastrophe which we are going to reach, okay? So veganism or vegetarianism is highly recommended. Okay, is there any solution to this? Okay, the next 10, 15 minutes I will spend on the solutions and then I will end my talk. And yes, you can, there is adaptations and mitigations are talked about, but it's becoming more and more widespread. But current implementation efforts are insufficient to avoid increasingly negative social, environmental, and economic consequences. So you need to be very much aware. You have to make it as a political issue, okay? A political agenda. Otherwise, nothing will change. The good news is that there are simple ways to reduce your own carbon footprint, okay? And most of them will end up saving you money too. For example, electricity. Don't leave your room, you know, with the lights on. When you leave, switch it off. Switch off your AC when you are not using it. Use public transportations. Reuse all the waste, you know, if possible, recycle it very often, okay? Consume gas at minimal, okay? And increase fuel efficiency. You know, during Corona, when they put the restrictions in Chennai alone, I think there was about 2.5 lakhs of motorbikes have been confiscated. All these guys were just roaming around. And the you just think of that. You take the fuel. Your car doesn't run by water, right? So your motorbikes doesn't run by water. And so you are wasting the fuel. Not only that, actually, the gas emissions coming out of your motorbikes. I don't know how many people of you are using motorbikes, and this message is not good for you. The emissions from the motorbikes, okay? This is volatile organic chemicals, or VOC, coming out of all your motorbike movement on India, or on the streets of India, has completely, irreversibly reversed the monsoon arriving to India, irreversibly, Okay, it has done so much damage, but still we are roaming around without even realizing the catastrophic effect you are roaming around with your motorbike can cause. Okay, so what is very important is have this environmental awareness and educate. You get educated, educate other people as well. Okay, strict recycling enforcement, recycle everything. Okay, ecotourism, take people to nature and show them how precious nature is. Okay, involve your community in maintaining environmental health. Okay, bring in green politics in India. There is no political agenda. I've been watching all these elections. There is no party has talked about environmental issues in India, whereas the country where I live in Germany, we have a green party which is thrusting environmental issues to the forefront, and the government is listening and making correct environmental laws. So industrial participation is extremely important because the industries are actually making us consumers, okay? That is the consumer thrust. And so they need to be involved in a holistic development, and then a sustained commitment from the people like you and me and the government is very important for any change to happen. And rediscovering conventional wisdom. This is a very important point. This is where the cultural environmentalism, which I propose now, stand on. I will explain that soon. So before 1960s, when Rachel Carson introduced the Silent Spring, a whole lot of environmental movements started working. I was also inspired by Rachel Carson. But in 70s, Wordsworth, Henry Thoreau, William Bartram, the Cherokees and Apaches were talking about environment, and they were all called as pastoral poems or romanticism or transcendentalism and the frontier literature. But actually, our guys in Tamil Nadu, in Tamil, have spoken about this centuries before this. Before getting into that, one positive note by Bucky or the Buckminster Fuller is that I'm positive that what you do with yourself, just one little thing you do yourself, these are the things that count. To be a real trim tab, what's a trim tab? I will explain. To be a real trim tab, you have got to start with yourself. This is the important message. And soon you will feel that low pressure, and suddenly things begin to work in a beautiful way. There are plenty of examples of how these things do change here. Of course, they happen only when you are dealing with great integrity. You should feel committed, okay? You should do it passionately, okay? So, Jitu Krishnamurti, a thinker from India, a very influential thinker of 20th century, says, in oneself lies the whole world. And if you know how to look and learn, the door is there. And the key for a change is in your hand, okay? Nobody on earth can give you either the key or the door to open except yourself. So the responsibility is in you, okay? So what is a trim tab? A trim tab, sometimes called as the rudder, here is this big ship, and you have this trim tab. That is the one which actually gives directions to that ship. Ship is so huge, but the trim tab is very, very small. You can compare this in a cart too. And so Thiruvalluvar says, Uruvu Gandi Ellamai Vendum, Urul Perum Therku. This big pair, Achani Annar Udaithu. So this Achani is such a tiny thing, but without this Achani, the Urul Perum there cannot move. Okay, so your deeds, what you do personally, makes a big, big difference. Okay, so is Gaia, I talked about Gaia and explained to you Gaia. Has this thought been in Tamil diaspora? Yes, it is. Actually, if you look at it here in this poetry, this is a beautiful poetry by Nammalvar, which states that Karar Vare Kungai, the planet Earth, the big mountains are the breast of the mountain, the planet Earth, okay? The big sea is her beautiful blue dress, okay? And the sun is her beautiful eyes, okay? and these muddy rivers are her beautiful jewelry, and this wonderful rain is her beautiful kundal. Okay, you know what is a kundal, your beautiful kundal, and the Neerarveli Nilamangai Kayyannam. So nobody has explained this way. Actually, Kadals, this whole world is surrounded by water, right? So Nammalvar says, in the Nilam என்ற மங்கைக்கு இதுதான் வேலி, இதுதான் வந்து இந்த தண்ணி தான் ஒரு வேலியா அமைந்திருக்கு அப்படின்னு அவர் சொல்றாரு. So beautiful actually. And even before that, you know, in Kimu Munu, that is like before Christ, 300 centuries before Christ, there was a very, very beautiful poem by Kudapulaviyanar. என்ன சொல்றாங்க? நீரின்றி அமையாது யாக்கைக்கு எல்லாம் உண்டி கொடுத்தோர் உயிர் கொடுத்தோரே, உண்டி முதற்றே உணவின் பிண்டம் உணவு எனப்படுவது நிலத்தொடு நீரே. It's very, very beautiful equations. He says, if you look at the planet Earth, the Earth is the body. Okay, the life comes from water. So நீரின்றி அமையாது யாக்கை. So life cannot exist without water. Okay, so she says, நிலன் நெரு மருங்கில் நீர்நிலை பெருக. யார்கிட்ட சொல்றாங்க இவங்க? அடுவோர் செழிய. ஓகே, பாண்டியன் நெடுஞ்செழியனுக்கு சொல்றாங்க. ஓகே, so make more lakes, preserve and rainwater harvesting. Okay, that is the message when it was 300 years before Christ. And this is another very, very, very beautiful poem which I like from Natrinai. தமிழ்ல சொல்றேன், இது இன்னும் சுவையா இருக்கும். ஒரு காதலன் ஒரு காதலி. ஓகே, காதலியை பார்க்க காதலன் வரான். அந்த பொண்ணும் அவருடைய தோழியும் ஒரு மரத்துக்கு கீழே, அது புன்னை மரம், அதுக்கு கீழே நின்றுட்டு இருக்காங்க. இவளை பார்த்த உடனே காதலிக்கு ரொம்ப உற்சாகம், ஆசைதான். ஆனா இவன் கிட்டக்கு வந்தோன்னு ஓடி போயிடுறான். இவனுக்கு புரியல. இவன் வந்து தோழிகிட்ட கேட்கறான், எப்பவுமே ஆசையோட இருப்பாளே, ஏன் நான் இன்னைக்கு வந்தோன்னு ஓடி போறா அப்படின்னு. அப்போ ஒரு தொழில் சொல்றா, எல்லாம் சார் தான், இருந்தாலும் தங்கைக்கு முன்னாடி வச்சு பேசுறது நல்லா இருக்காதுன்னு போயிட்டாங்க. யாரு இங்க தங்கை? உன்னை தவிர வேற யாரு இருக்காங்க? இல்ல, இந்த புன்னை மரம் தான் அவளுடைய தங்கை. புன்னை மரம் தங்கையா? எப்படி அப்படின்னு பார்த்தோம்னா, இவங்க குழந்தையில விளையாடிட்டு இருக்கிற பொழுது அந்த புன்னை மரத்தோட அந்த அதை வந்து பால் நட்ஸ்ன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க, அதை வந்து சின்னத கோலி உருண்டை மாதிரி விளையாண்டுட்டு இருக்கிற போது அதுல விழுந்து அது மரமாகி, அப்போ அது மரமா வளர ஆரம்பிச்சு தெரிஞ்ச உடனே இவன் என்ன பண்ணிவிட்டா, அதுக்கு நீர் ஊற்றி அதை வளர்த்து கொண்டு வந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம் அவன் அம்மா சொல்லிட்டா, இதாண்டி உன்னோட தங்கச்சி அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. சோ அந்த செடி, அந்த மரம் வந்து அவளுக்கு தங்கையாகி விடுகின்றது. So what does it tell? This tells a very, very, very important modern concept called Nexus Approach. What is a Nexus Approach in environmental sciences? A Nexus Approach talks about interconnectivity and interdependency. Okay, so here she realizes the interconnectivity of herself with the nature around her. Okay, and she also realized the interdependency. Okay, she is connected with nature and she depends on nature, nature depends on her. Okay, this was told 3,000 years back. Okay, this is what I said, the cultural environmentalism. Your culture has all the environmental paradigms in it. Okay, all the values that can save you and the entire humanity. So read and know your roots very well. Okay, there is another beautiful poem by Pisarandaya. Pisarandaya says, for example, if you allow elephants to get into a field, and what it can do, நூறு செரு ஆயினும் தமித்தி புக்கு உனினே வாய் புகுவதெனும் கால் பெரிதும் கெடுக்கும், இருக்கிறத பூரா அழிச்சிடும். ஓகே, ஆனா அந்த நெல்லை விளைவித்து, ஓகே, அதை கொடுத்தா கால் நெல் அறுத்து கவளமாக்கி கொளினே மாநிறைவு இல்லதும் பன்னாட்கு ஆகும். சோ அந்த யானைக்கு வந்து பல நாட்களுக்கு கொடுக்கக்கூடிய உணவை வந்து இந்த சென்னல் கழனி தரும். ஆனா வந்து அதையே நீ விட்டு சாப்பிடுன்னு சொன்னா வந்து அது எல்லாத்தையும் அழிச்சு போட்டுரும். So this is what sustainability is. So to sustain yourself, you should reduce your consumption and you should use in a very sustainable way all your resources. Okay, that was told by Pisrandayar as Sangam poet long time back. Okay, and then we'll come to Thiruvalluvar. But based on all these things, the United Nations has actually recommended what you call sustainable development goals. There were 17 sustainable development goals proposed by United Nations. Okay, you can search it in Google and see. I will talk about a few of them here. And the number one goal is no poverty. Okay, donate whatever you have. Okay, 836 million people live in extreme poverty in the world. So share your food. Okay, what is Valdua says? Attar அழிவசி தீர்த்தல் அகுதொருவன் பெற்றான் பொருள் வைப்புழி. நீ தனியா உனக்கு வந்து நீ பேங்க்ல வைக்கிற டெபாசிட்ஸ் எல்லாம் உனக்கு முக்கியம் இல்லடா. நீ அங்க இருக்கிற ஒருத்தனுக்கு பசியை நீ போக்கிட்ட அப்படின்னா அதுதான் உன்னுடைய எதிர்காலத்துக்கு நீ வைக்கக்கூடிய பெரிய வாய்ப்பு அப்படிங்கிறாரு. எவ்வளவு ஒரு பியூட்டிஃபுல் மெசேஜ் பாருங்க. The second goal is zero hunger. Okay, avoid throwing away food because over 1/3 of the world's food is being wasted. I realize that in Malaysia, in fact, if you look at the organic or look at the solid waste, especially the organic food, 2/3 of actually what people eat are thrown away, or 2/3 of the solid waste is full of organic, which can be actually reused, recycled, and the energy can be actually extracted from it. ஆனா பசி ஒருத்தனுக்கு இருக்கக்கூடாது, தனி ஒருவனுக்கு உணவில்லையெனில் ஜெகத்தினை அழித்திடுவோம் அப்படின்னு பாரதி சொல்றாரு. அவருக்கு எங்கன்னு கிடைக்குது இந்த தாட்? இறந்தும் உயிர் வாழ்தல் வேண்டும் பறந்து கெடுக உலகு இயற்றினார். I think no poet in the world has this dareness to say this. என்ன சொல்றாரு? ஒருத்தன் பிச்சை எடுத்துதான் வாழணும் அப்படின்னு ஒரு விதி அப்படின்னு நீ அந்த விதியை உருவாக்கி என்றால் இறைவா நீ செத்து ஒழிக. ஓகே, பறந்து கெடுக உலகு இயற்றினார். இறைவனுக்கே சாபம் கொடுக்கிறார் வள்ளுவர். ஏன் அப்படி சாபம் கொடுக்கிறாரு? It comes out of compassion. He says that there is a beggar on the street. Okay, so no poverty is the second goal. Okay, what is the third goal? It says good health and well-being. Okay, this is very important. வள்ளுவர் எப்படி பார்க்கிறார்? அத அறிவினான் ஆகுவதுண்டோ பிரிதின் நோய் தன் நோய் போல் போற்றாக்கடை. ஒருத்தருக்கு வியாதி வந்து கஷ்டப்படுறாரு அப்படின்னா அது எனக்கு வந்தது போல எவனால உணர முடிகின்றதோ அப்பொழுது அந்த நோய் போக்குவதற்கு அவன் உதவுவான். அப்போ வந்து இந்த பப்ளிக் ஹெல்த் will be much higher. Okay, what is the fourth goal? The fourth goal is quality education. So help your children in your community to read and write. Okay, we do that very well in India. So கேடில் விழிச்செல்வம் கல்வி ஒருவருக்கு மாடல்ல மற்றையா. So செல்வம் உனக்கு இருக்கக்கூடிய பெரிய செல்வம்ங்கிறதே அது கல்விதான் அப்படிங்கிறாரு வள்ளுவர். So get educated, get well informed, make your decision well informed. Okay, the fifth goal, it says call out sexist language. Okay, so this is gender equality. Okay, so this is extremely important. What I see is in many debates, தமிழ் பட்டிமன்றங்கள்ல எல்லாம் பெண்களை வந்து ஒரு ஏதோ நகைச்சுவைன்னு சொல்றது வழியா இழிவுபடுத்துவது வழக்கமா இருக்குது. அதற்கு காரணம் தமிழ் என்ற மொழியே வந்து ஆண்மொழியாக இருக்கு. தமிழ்ல வந்து இன்னும் பெண் மொழி இல்லை. So we need to create actually a neutral, a gender equal language to ourselves. Okay, so அப்பதான் இந்த gender bias இல்லாம வந்து இந்த gender equality அப்படின்னு வரும். ஆணும் பெண்ணும் சரிநக சமம் கற்பென்று சொல்ல வைத்தால் அதை இருபாலருக்கும் பொதுவில் வைப்போம் தான் பாரதி. So ரெண்டு பேருக்கும் கற்பு இருக்கு, ரெண்டு பேரும் they are equal. Okay, treat them as your equal partner and respect them and give them power, which is very important. Empower the women. Okay, then the world will change. So அது என்ன சொல்றாரு? பேரண்ட்ஸுக்கு வந்து தான் குழந்தைகள் நல்லா படிச்சு வரணுங்கிறது தான் ஆசை. தம்மின் தம்மக்கள் அறிவுடைமை மாநிலத்து மண்ணுயிர்க்கெல்லாம் எழுது. நான் சொன்னேன் பாருங்க, இப்ப நான் இருந்தேன், எங்க தாத்தா இருந்தாரு, எங்க அம்மா எங்களை ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்பட்டு படிக்க வச்சாங்க, நீங்க எல்லாம் படிச்சு மேல வரணும் அப்படின்ட்டு. நான் ஒருத்தன் படிச்சு வந்த உடனே பாருங்க, என் பொண்ணு வந்து she has gone somewhere. Okay, she is a airport hopper. அந்த மாதிரி தான் பெற்றோர்கள் ஆசைப்படுவோம், நம்ம குழந்தைகள் நல்லா படிச்சு வரணும் அப்படிங்கிறது. அப்ப we give gender equality. And the last one is about water. Okay, you think water is there everywhere. And so you mistreat actually. Water is a very, very precious commodity. So avoid wasting water, okay? Water scarcity affects more than 40% of the world population. So 40% of world population ஒரு குடம் தண்ணி கூட கிடைக்கிறது இல்லை. அப்படி இருக்கு இந்த உலகத்துல நம்ம வந்து எவ்வளவு தண்ணியை வேஸ்ட் பண்றோம் இந்தியாவில். வள்ளுவர் என்ன சொல்றாரு? நீரின்றி அமையாது உலகனின் யார் யாருக்கும் வான் இன்று அமையாது ஒழுக்கு. இங்க ஒழுக்கு அப்படிங்கிறது the whole social order. He says if there is no water, the social order will collapse. There are some predictions actually in southern America. There were already a water war. Okay, we almost had it with Karnataka. Okay, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka went on a war just for water. So don't waste water and keep it safe. Okay, and then about affordable clean energy, where Valdova says something about it. And so ultimately, there are a couple of slides to finish. So Barry Commoner, her first law of ecology is everything is connected. You and me, you and the plants, you and the animals, you and the mountains, okay? You and the moon, you and sun, and you and the universe. Everything is connected to everything else, okay? This is the first law of ecology, okay? And then Barry Lopez, the more superficial a society's knowledge of the real dimensions of the land it occupies, the more vulnerable the land is to exploitation, to manipulation for short-term gain. This is what is exactly happening now, okay? See, the planet Earth has been so much exploited because we treat it superficially. We don't understand the worth of planet Earth, okay? And so we overexploit. You know, like the current condition is we already exploited all the resources in planet Earth. We need 1.5 extra planet to survive. Not only that, why this message is important for you and your next generation is we have already stolen your future. Your future has been stolen by the previous generation. And when all your resources are taken or polluted, what future you have? Sometimes I wonder, like in Chengalpet and everywhere, there is this fertility center to increase the population. Why do you increase the population? When you can't give them a future, the future is in your hand. If you exploit planet Earth and exhaust it completely, what is there for your children and grandchildren to enjoy here? Already I see that what I saw, you don't see. What you see, your children will not see. Don't you agree? And that's why the ancient Tamils had a nexus approach towards the place where they lived. So they had Mullai, Kurunji, Marudam, Neidal, and Palai. I can go into this in an elaborate way, but we don't have time. But it only tells our ancestors had this nexus approach in a very elegant way. Okay. So what is cultural environmentalism? Human acts occur within a network of relationships. This is very important. You need to understand our whole existence is in relationships. So human acts occur within a network of relationships, processes, and systems that are as ecological as they are cultural. I said that, see, nothing like this. Aindinai was ecological entities. Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, ecotypes. Okay, but they were also cultural entities. Okay, so this is what exactly cultural environmentalism is. So read your literature, read Thirukural, read your Sangam literature. Okay, find your roots. Literature plays a part in an immensely complex global system in which energy, matter, and idea interact. Okay, this is what eco-criticism is about. Okay. And so what we need is a human change, not a climate change. So are you ready for it? Okay. So what I stand for is what I stand on. Okay. And here I have given my WhatsApp number. If you want to send me a message, please note it down. And I thank the organizers, and I thank Bishop Heber and the American College to giving me an opportunity to address in front of you. And I think I've taken more than 40 minutes. I'm sorry about that. But if you have any questions, I would be very willing to answer them. And I stop my sharing now. Thank you very much.
For engaging us with the wisdom of yours. Hall is open for questions. You may clear your doubts now.
Student friends of various colleges. Any doubts?
Feel free, feel free. We learn through exchanging information. So only the answer is within the question. So ask intelligent questions. First of all, ask questions.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful, inspirational information. Almost all of our students are there, very alert in understanding your concepts. None of them are sleeping.
Thank you. Yes, that's a good news.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Almost the nuclear holocaust or the asteroid disasters, and almost all countries, they have a very good cooperation or coordination with everyone at the premier level. But at the same time, every country, they prepare and manufacture nuclear bombs also. And what will be your suggestion in understanding or living together in 2025 or 2030 for the youngsters like the BSc graduates, because a lot of competition is there, and the basic graduation or the certificate programs can help them at a smaller level, but at maximum more than 97% of the skills and the other things to be gained from all other areas of life. The normal lifespan is also 40, 47, 50. Even at the age, most of them are there struggling hard. And man thinks that he has conquered the whole space, just he entered in the sprint of the moon. But is it true for the whole younger generation to reach the next level? In what way they can understand the educated scenario and the government new plans to live a smooth life?
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's several questions in one shot. But first, talking about nuclear catastrophe. So I was in Hiroshima when I did my postdoc in Japan, and that is actually catastrophic. You know, like if you watch that, you will really shed tears. You know, because nuclear catastrophe is really unimaginable. You know, if a nuclear war comes, that's the end of the world. Okay. But even without that, you know, that you must have understood from my talk, we don't need actually a nuclear weapon to kill us. We kill ourselves by, it's a very slow killing. This is a kind of a suicidal path we are already in, okay, by degrading our environment. You know, my good friend, Dr. Prasad Kodavandi in ESCPA, I was there in Nallur in a similar conference by the Nallur University. He mentioned that 80% of the current human illness comes because of environmental causes. Okay, so even corona is definitely related to environment. You know, like, so if there's a habitat loss and you start eating wild animals, and wild animals get into human fields and things like this. You know, like so. These are all very, very artificial, and we get infected, and this is all environmental in nature. Okay, corona is one simple example. Okay, there are more coronas going to come, because once, for example, one of the other prediction is that if all the tundra Now it is under ice. Once it starts melting, all the gases and all the new virus and bacteria will come out of it. And we don't know what will be the catastrophic effect of. So environmental damage is far more important than what do we think, like it is. We just take it for granted. This is the thing, like after listening to this, you will just go out and go to the tea kadela poi ukkaandu tea saaptu nalla irundhathu appdi solittu neenga poiduveenga veetukku. But that's not the end actually. So you should really understand that எப்படி ஒரு brimல உட்கார்ந்துட்டு இருக்கீங்க, எப்ப கீழே விழுவீங்கங்கிற ஒரு சிச்சுவேஷன்ல இருக்கீங்க. You are really, as Jitu Krishnamurthy says, you are in a house which is under fire, but we don't realize the emergency of it. That's the thing, because the life looks normal, but it is not normal. See, in Changalpatla 2 days back, there was a tornado. You won't believe. There was a tornado, and the railway station is about 500, 600 meters away. A rod from that thing was brought right into my roof and break my roof. Okay, a heavy rod has been lifted and spin around and put it like a javelin throw madri enga roof la adichirukku. We got fans and other things from anywhere else. How does it happen? So catastrophe is happening right here. I see the climate crisis right at my backyard. Okay, so this is extremely important. This message is very important for the college students now, so that the theme of this one is innovation and sustainability. So sustainability is extremely important, because don't be a consumer. When you have a shirt, be happy with what you have. Okay, don't go for 10 more shirts, okay, 10 more skirts or more things, okay, because the current economic system is that they tempt you always. There's a choice. They tempt you to buy more things. Don't get into the temptation. So be aware of whatever you do, okay, share your resources, okay, go recycling. Upcycling is another important thing, okay. How much recycle, go on circular economic paths, that the waste of an industry could be a resource of another industry. Okay, think on those levels. Okay, in the environment we say, think globally. I started like that, from universe. Act locally. So I ended up with that you are responsible. So you need to act. You have to act locally. Okay, then only a change will come. Not just talks and just celebrations. No, we need to act. Okay, I'm not sure whether I have answered you, but this is the message for the students, and this is the current situation.
Any more question, mates?
Vanakkam sir, simple question sir.
Cholunga.
We have been talking about since 1992. That's summit la irundhu pesite irukkom sir. Neenga சொன்னீங்க உங்க லெக்சர்லயே சொன்னீங்க green policies இந்தியால எதுவுமே கிடையாது அப்படின்றது. பாலிடிக்ஸ் பத்தி பேசுறதே இல்லை, green politics பத்தி பேசுறதே இல்லை. அவர் என்ன சொல்லியிருந்தாருன்னா, இது வரைக்கும் நம்ம சொன்ன எங்க, அதாவது கியோட்டோ புரோட்டோகாலா இருந்தாலும் சரி, பாரிஸ் கன்வென்ஷனாலும் சரி, எல்லாத்துலயும் செஞ்சது இது வரைக்கும் நம்ம நிறைவேற்றவே இல்லை. இன்னொன்னு கிரீனிங், இன்க்ரீசிங் தி கிரீனர் கூட இல்ல, அதுவும் கான்ட்ரிபியூட் பண்ண நாடு 2 நாடு தான் சொல்றாங்க, சைனாவும் இந்தியாவும். வாட் அபவுட் தி அதர் கண்ட்ரீஸ்? 194 நாடுகள். We have been talking about climate crisis and no solution is still there. What is your opinion, sir? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. By the way, I enjoyed your talk. That was very interesting. But now we are entering into politics. I could also give a talk on that. Actually, there is an international. See, the Bangladeshi would say that I'm not responsible for the carbon emission of the world. I'm in no way connected with all this huge climate crisis. Okay, but I'm going to be inundated in next 10 years. Already several million people will be actually evacuating Bangladesh, because the Bangladesh and Netherlands, they are all either at the sea level or below sea level. Okay, even India and China. Okay, but actually I didn't show the map. There's a nice map showing that The green efforts in India is extremely good. Okay, so compared to other countries, India is still green. Okay, we are doing really very well, and thanks to Dr. Abdul Kalam and Vivek, these initiatives are extremely important. The unfortunate thing, as you pointed out, actually, like I didn't put it in Stephen Hawking's statement. He says, when he said 1,000 years for human existence, now he says 100 years. It's because of your stupid leaders like, this American president, and these kind of guys, not the present one, the one before, I forgot his name, and Trump, yes, Trump. And there's people like that who never believes in climate change or who never believes in science. Like 15,000 scientists have signed that this is true. He just ignores them, okay? And when we have leaders like this, definitely we are heading for catastrophe. And you also mentioned that America has not signed many of these treaties, global treaties. Even with the Stockholm Conventions, where I was involved with chemical pollution, America was dragging behind, whereas India has signed, Malaysia was not, and several other countries have signed, okay? And India has signed most of these treaties, as I told you, because India was always sustainable in its thinking. All our rishis and siddhas and all our great poets, they knew this extremely well. They know this interconnectivity. They know Nexus. They know that we are all interconnected, interdependent, and all the entire religion of India, whatever you name it, they all talk about this one. I mean, to me as a scientist, if I look at it, the India, they have taken this too religiously, and it has become a religion. Actually, the message is very simple, that I am connected to you, and that has become bhakti. Okay, I am connected to God and whatever. And so this interconnectivity is, if you read Alvar Pasurangal, the entire Sri Vaishnavism is talking about relationship. Okay, that's what Nexus Approach is also. And so the international politics is something that's not good. Okay, but at least when I was in Germany a few months back, there was a big demonstrations against Corona, because many Germans believe that Corona is a conspiracy. Okay, it's WHO and everything is involved. Okay, and India, to me personally, if you ask me, India could have handled this very easily. We have seen all kinds of endemics, epidemics before, but because of an international pressure, we have really strained our people so much. But we never believe in, we trust in allopathy, we trust in the Western systems, and we believe in the Western consumerism, we believe in the linear economy. Originally, Indians were all in circular economy. So the Western model failed, totally failed. Okay, everybody knows, including the Westerners know that. Okay, but they don't have any alternative. That's why I'm proposing that cultural environmentalism. I wrote a chapter in a German book on Nexus Approach. So that the values are here in Tamil. The beautiful values are here. We need to dig more and get these ideas and tell the world that it's possible to revert, change the world. Okay. In fact, like there was said by J. Krishnamurti, they asked him, like, you were teaching for the past 92 years or so, can you reduce the whole thing into a short one-word bodhanai? Okay. And he says, if you are, the other is not. Simple. The other could be environment, God, or friendship, or compassion, love, whatever. If you are concerned only about yourself, the other is not. Okay. The world is so selfish, and this is actually mutaltanamana selfish, like so. பல்லுயிர்க்கும் கொடுத்து ஓம்புக அப்படின்னு தான் வள்ளுவர் சொல்றார். ஓகே, பகுத்துண்டு பல்லுயிர் ஓம்புதல் ஆன்றோர் வகுத்தவுற்று எல்லாம் தலைங்கிறார். இது வரைக்கும் என்னென்ன பண்ணி ரிசர்ச் பண்ணி கண்டுபிடிச்சு வச்சிருக்காங்களோ அதுலயே பெஸ்ட் என்ன அப்படின்னா பகுத்துண்டு பல்லுயிர் ஓம்புதல். So that we share our resources with everyone. But that's what we don't do that because we are so selfish. Okay. So, but we need to think about ourselves, our actions, and then, of course, we need to question the big brothers right in USA. Vantana Siva is a very big voice from India against these big conglomerates. And I really appreciate her initiatives. There are a lot of actually environmental warriors in India. We need to cheer them up, and we should become also an environmental warrior, and we should fight against these forces. They are the dark forces we need to fight. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a doubt, sir.
Yes, sir.
What's your stand on aliens, sir? How do you perceive aliens? UFO, undefined flying objects.
Oh, I don't hear you properly. What?
What's your idea on aliens?
Oh, aliens. Aliens. Very interesting. My German friend is a great believer of aliens. Okay. He said by April, the whole thing will be okay. The corona drama is over. I says, who said you? The aliens said that. Okay, so there are, the alien intelligence who are watching us, and there are theories that way that they are advising us, and even these environmental movements and all those things, they say that these are all by aliens. Well, sir, there is, see, as a scientist, I don't have solid evidence, science is based on data, okay? We don't have enough data to prove that there are aliens. And also as an environmental scientist, I'm a bit against that because I want to emphasize to the people that we have only one home in the universe, okay? And our only home, only hope is this planet Earth, save planet Earth. That's my message. If I believe in aliens, then I say there is an escape. But actually, there is a funny anecdote to give you. I was in a similar conference in India, and one of the Bharat Ratna scientists, from ISRO was talking. I was quoting Stephen Hawking. Says, sir, the people say there are only 100 years for us to live further. What do you think? Ha! Don't worry about Stephen Hawking. He just lived and died. We will move over to another planet. Okay. So this is another big hope that you will move the entire planet, the people of the entire planet Earth into another planet. First of all, they don't have oxygen to live. So how you are going to live in Mars or live in Moon to that extent. Okay, so environment is extremely important. Understanding environment is very important. So with the aliens, I'm very ambiguous. Okay, this is very trendy to say that yes, there are aliens, this and that. But scientifically, as a scientist, I can't. I endorse that. Sorry about that. Anything else?
This is my last question.
Yes, sir.
So my question is that a country like India, it is a democratic country, and we have many issues, psychological issues in maintaining sustainable development, because people will not obey the laws and any conditions made by the government. What will be your thought of process to advise people to obey the psychological conditions to maintain the sustainable development of a country?
Yes, it's a very, very good question. Excellent question. I believe in democracy. I'm totally a Democrat. Okay, and India is doing extremely well. So, but on the other day, I was listening to the energy minister, central minister. You won't believe things happen in India. When it happens so drastically, very fast. Okay. I still remember it was in the early 2000. I was coming from Germany. I was in an internet, I was also involved in Tamil internet. So I was in one of those Tamil internet meetings. And that was in early, like in the end of 1990s, and we were in the room, and then they took some photos, and then suddenly it appeared right on the screen through internet. So already we were in 21st century. I realized that. At the same time, when I walk out, I saw the buffaloes and the bulls shitting around on the street. And then that was 18th century or 17th century. Okay. So time is a magic in India. We just traverse like this, like at one time we are Stone Age guys. Now with religion, we are extremely Stone Age guys. And then in science, we are in 21st century with artificial intelligence and other things. Okay, coming to your point, what we need to do is in a democratic system, this is happening in Germany, so I'm not just imagining. In Germany, Greenpeace started, okay? They make people well informed. This is extremely important. 98% literacy or more in Germany. People are extremely informed. Okay, so you make informed decisions. Okay, then you give pressure to a local representative, public representative. It could be panchayat, or it could be in local legislative assembly, or to the parliament. So you need to make these issues important. This is important to me now. You have to say this. See, one thing I learned, I used to say this in Malaysia, where it is an Islamic regime, and they don't allow people to talk, okay? And it is also a democracy, actually. So I often tell them that if you don't talk, change will never happen. The Tamils living there are secondary citizens, okay? They always complain, oh, we don't, given all the freedom and all those things, we are being treated as secondary citizens. Yes, but look into a constitution. You have constitutional rights. Voice about it. If you don't voice about it, then nobody is going to say. This is one thing in democracy. Nobody is going to give you, in democracy. As I told you, people are selfish, and the government will try to keep their power. They try to keep their resources tight, but they are stupid in some sense. Like there's all the corruptions in most of the developing nations. Is totally stupid to me, because what will you do with all the money through the corruption you get if you get a flood tomorrow, okay? If you get a heavy rain tomorrow, okay? If you get a tornado tomorrow. So you damage your environment, and then you can't eat the money and survive when a situation like that comes. Okay, this happened in Corona time in England. A very rich guy, he got into his treasure chest, and got locked in there. And nobody noticed it, that he went in and he got lost. And so he starved and died. And that time he wrote a note saying that I'm one of the richest guy in the world. I have all the gold. I have all the money around me, but I can't eat them. I'm dying. So that is exactly the message we need to think about. Our planet Earth is the resource. Our planet Earth is so precious. It is giving everything free. Air is free, water is free. Originally, the land was free, okay? But we make everything through our stupid economy. Everything, we fix a price for it, and then damage the whole thing. But what is the price of an ecosystem? Tell me. I was involved when there was a big oil spill in Korea, okay? I was talking with Canadian and United Nations and the American group, okay? The question was, if there is an oil spill in a coastline, okay, how will you actually estimate, or what is the price of an ecosystem? Think of that. We still don't have an answer. How will you estimate the loss of an ecosystem? How will you value an ecosystem? Okay, so we need to make these things, to make the politicians to understand that we all live in a very, very fragile world. Okay, we are all interconnected. All of life is interconnected. And so be cautious, okay, corruption, you can't just change it in overnight. I do understand, but don't be too greedy. Okay, so don't go to the threshold. Okay, so that's what's happening in the Western world. In the Western world, Corruption is there everywhere, okay? But still, the common man gets what he wants. You know, what I like in Germany is if I buy a property in Germany, okay, in addition, I get 30% off the land where I live. I have parks there for me. I have walking lanes for me. I have trails for me to walk around. So 30% added value comes to me. But you buy a plot here, what value you get? You can't even walk out, you know, somebody will kick you out. That's what is happening in my street here. Already I got a kick, I don't know where the motorbikes, you know. Nobody cares that the system here is so selfish. And we need to actually be more responsible and make our government, your government, more responsible. That's the only way we can bring the change. I believe in democracy. Empower people, empower women, empower children. That's very important. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.